Okay, so here we are continuing our discussion of ARC Section 90A for the review of financial statements. And through the last few videos, we've been discussing the accountant's review report and what needs to be included in that report, and also how to modify it when certain circumstances are present. For instance, if the entity used a special purpose framework in preparing their financial statements, or if there are comparative financial statements that we reviewed. And so now we're going to dive into modifying our accountant's review report to include an emphasis of a matter and other matter paragraphs therein. So this is in ARC section 90A.52 through 55. So first we'll take on the emphasis of a matter paragraph, and then we will take a look at the other matter paragraph, and then our communications with management. So regarding the emphasis of a matter paragraph, we see here that we include such a paragraph when we consider it necessary to draw the user's attention to a matter that is presented or disclosed in the financial statements that, in our professional judgment, is so important and fundamental to the user's understanding of the financial statements that we should include a paragraph in our accountant's review report to draw their attention to that matter. And we should only do that if we believe that the financial statements aren't materially misstated, or rather, we don't believe that they are materially misstated. And that paragraph should only refer to information that's presented or disclosed in the financial statement. So we shouldn't go on to describe any more than what is described in the notes of the financial statements. And we'll dig into the details of that in a little bit. And so when we do decide to include an emphasis of a matter paragraph in our review report, we should include it immediately after the accountant's conclusion paragraph in the accountant's review report. So that'll be at the end of the accountant's review report. We should also have a heading called emphasis of a matter, or an appropriate heading that draws the user's attention to that's what that paragraph is going to discuss. We should also include in the paragraph a clear reference to the matter being emphasized and to where the relevant disclosures that fully describe the matter can be found in the financial statement. So our wording of the paragraph may say something to the effect of, as noted in footnote X, blah, blah, blah. And finally, we should indicate that our conclusion is not modified with respect to the matter emphasized, if it's not. So that emphasis of a matter, as it's named, is where we're emphasizing a matter that might be important to users of the financial statements and is really paramount to the user's understanding of the financial statements. So it's a very, very big judgment call on the accountant's part, but it will usually be based on really rare events that have happened with the company, or something that has totally changed the financial statements or the entity's performance. Next, we have an other matter paragraph in our accountant's review report that we have an option of including. And so this is basically the same as an emphasis of a matter paragraph, only in this case, the description of the matter has not been included in the financial statements or in the footnotes. So if we consider it necessary to communicate a matter other than those that are presented or disclosed in the financial statements, according to our professional judgment, then we can include this other matter paragraph after the conclusion or after the emphasis of a matter paragraph. And finally, if we expect to include an emphasis of a matter or other matter paragraph in our accountant's review report, then we should communicate that with management regarding this expectation and the proposed wording of the paragraph. So we shouldn't surprise management with this paragraph in the accountant's review report. We certainly want to warn them that, hey, we're considering of including this to alert the users of the financial statements that this matter might be important, and they could even help a little with the wording of that paragraph. Okay, so we've got some explanatory material here, A94 through 97, 98, 103. So A94 through 103, and we can take a look at those explanatory material sections and make sure we understand fully how this might be structured in our accountant's review report. Okay, so now we're down to explanatory material regarding emphasis of a matter and other matter paragraphs in our accountant's review report. And this tells us when we are required to include an emphasis of a matter or other matter paragraph in our accountant's review report. And that's when circumstances are relating to the following circumstances. And these are sections within this ARC section 90A that already tell us that we need to include an emphasis of matter or other matter paragraph. And we're just sort of reiterating, regurgitating that information from those sections so that we know different circumstances where an emphasis of matter or other matter paragraph would be required. And that's when we are preparing the financial statements in accordance with the special purpose framework. So we include that paragraph to notify the user about that information. We include one when we change a reference to a departure from the applicable financial reporting framework when we report on our comparative financial statements, as we saw in the prior video. Also, we would include an emphasis of a matter paragraph when the prior period is audited while we are reviewing the current period, as we saw in the last video. Also, in the next few videos, we'll discuss some other times when an emphasis of a matter or other matter paragraph would be required, and that's when we are reporting a known departure from the applicable financial reporting framework, this material to the financial statements. Also, when management revises the financial statements for a subsequently discovered fact that became known to us after the report release date, and our new revised accountant's review report is different than the other one. We might also include an other matter or emphasis of a matter paragraph when supplementary information accompanies the financial statements that we reviewed, and also when required supplementary information is included. Okay, and so specifically for emphasis of a matter paragraphs, we have a few more examples here of times where we might include an emphasis of a matter paragraph, and that might be when there is uncertainty regarding the entity's ability to continue as a going concern for a reasonable period of time. Also, maybe if there's an uncertainty relating to future outcome of unusually important litigation or regulatory action. Maybe if there was a major catastrophe that has had or continues to have significant effect on the financial statements. Also, maybe if there are significant transactions with related parties, or maybe if there are unusually important subsequent events. So in these situations, we might include an emphasis of a matter paragraph to draw the user to the disclosures or the presentations that discuss these circumstances. So they tell us here that we remember from the requirement above that we only want to discuss in our emphasis of a matter paragraph what is presented or disclosed in the financial statements and nothing more. And so they say here that the reason they want us to do that is because if we discuss it differently in the accountant's review report than it's discussed in the financial statements or footnotes, then that may raise some questions about the appropriateness of what was included in the financial statements because it's different than what we included in our accountant's review report. So we don't want to raise questions like that. And in regard to the heading of our emphasis of a matter paragraph, as we saw before, they suggest having a heading that says emphasis of a matter, but we're also welcome to make that heading say something that describes the nature of the matter that we're disclosing. So, for instance, if the matter that we are wanting to disclose is related to a going concern issue, then we might name that heading going concern issue or something to that effect. And finally, they discuss the use of the emphasis of a matter paragraph compared to footnotes in financial statements or the overall opinion. And they say that the emphasis of a matter paragraph, it does affect the accountant's conclusion. So by including this paragraph, we are not changing the conclusion that we're making in the financial statements. We're merely, or in our accountant's review report, we're merely just pointing the users of the financial statements and the review report to a particular matter that we feel is important. And also, this emphasis of a matter paragraph is not a substitute for disclosures in the financial statements. So management can't forego putting a disclosure in the financial statements because we're, with the defense that we're including in our accountant's review report, this emphasis of matter paragraph is supposed to point to the footnote disclosure, and management is still required to include all of the disclosures that are required by the applicable financial reporting framework. Now let's discuss other matter paragraphs. And remember, these are ones where the matter has not been discussed in the financial statements or footnotes. And so they're saying here that for this paragraph to be an emphasis of a matter paragraph, the disclosure or the matter will have been properly presented and disclosed in the financial statements. But if the matter hasn't been properly presented or disclosed in the financial statements, then there can't be an emphasis of a matter paragraph. But we could include an other matter paragraph to point to that matter if we deem that it's important. And they provide an example here if the entity prepares two sets of financial statements, one of them under GAAP and one of them under IFRS, and we might include an other matter paragraph that notifies the user of the financial statements that, hey, these financial statements are under GAAP, but the entity has also prepared another set of financial statements that are reviewed by us that are under IFRS. So next they tell us here that the content of the other matter paragraph reflects clearly that that matter is not required to be presented and disclosed in the financial statements. Also, this other matter paragraph should not include information that we're prohibited from providing. For instance, if there's something confidential about the entity, we shouldn't include those items in the other matter paragraph. And also, we should not include information that's supposed to be provided by management. Okay, and finally, let's take a look at the specifics of communicating with management about our plan to include an emphasis of a matter or other matter paragraph in our accountant's review report. So it tells us here that by alerting management that we're going to provide that paragraph, it provides management an opportunity to obtain further clarification from us when they need it, and also maybe an opportunity for us to make sure that we understand what is happening in regard to the matter. Also, they say that if we've included that matter for a couple years now, it might, in a couple successive engagements, it might not be necessary for us to keep including that in the financial statements, and so we might take it out in future engagements. And also, we might find it necessary to communicate with those charged with governance regarding the expectation of the other matter paragraph and the proposed wording of that paragraph if those charged with governance take a more hands-on approach to these sort of things. So, okay, so now we're down into some illustrations of accounts review reports at Exhibit C. And so we can see a few of these emphasis of a matter paragraphs. It looks like here this report had the tax basis of accounting, so there will be an emphasis of a matter paragraph about that. There was a departure from the applicable financial reporting framework. So there will be an emphasis of a matter paragraph about that. So let's go down to 3 and 5, where we will see a paragraph after the conclusion. Yep, so here's illustration 3 right here. Let's go to the top. Illustration 3, tax basis of accounting. And so right after our conclusion, we have an emphasis of a matter paragraph. It's titled Basis of Accounting, and it draws our attention to note X of the financial statements, and then tells us about the tax basis of accounting. Remember, this is a requirement in one of our earlier videos, but we're made more aware in this particular section that it's called an emphasis of a matter paragraph. Okay, so let's go to the next one we saw, illustration 5, where there was a known departure from accounting principles. And a similar paragraph is right after the conclusion, and it says, and it refers us to note X, that blah, 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 goes a departure. And also we see here in our conclusion, it says, except for issue noted in this paragraph, then they're not aware of material modifications that she may make, blah, blah, blah. And so we'll get to known departures in the next video, I believe, but for now we know this is emphasis of a matter paragraph that has to be included right after the conclusion.